Toba Tek Singh is a short story by the famous Urdu writer Saadat Hasan Manto, and the story falls under partition literature. What is partition literature? Partition literature is a specialized genre of literature which explores the 1947 partition of India and Pakistan, resulted in numerous migration, Holocaust, violence, identity crisis. Let's read the story. The story is not written in 1947. It was written in 1954, 7 years after partition. The story is a fictional story by the controversial Urdu writer Saadat Hasan Manto, where the central character is Bishan Singh, a Sikh lunatic, and he depicts the situation of a lunatic asylum, how the so-called lunatics were behaving after hearing that they would be transferred to India, or some would have to remain in the Pakistani asylum. Couple of years after the partition of the country, he's talking about the partition of 1947. It occurred to the respective governments of India and Pakistan that inmates of lunatic asylums, like prisoners, should also be exchanged. This was a thought which occurred to the governments of India and Pakistan that, like the prisoners have been exchanged in a very similar way. The inmates, the lunatics of the lunatic asylums should be exchanged, should be transferred. Muslim lunatics in India should be transferred to Pakistan, and Hindu and Sikh lunatics in Pakistani asylums should be sent to India. This was the formal decision on which they were so much focused on, that Muslim lunatics who were living in India, they should be transferred to Pakistan, and who were the Hindu and Sikh lunatics who were in Pakistani asylums, they should be sent to India. Whether this was a reasonable or an unreasonable idea is difficult to say. The writer do not know whether this was a reasonable decision or not. One thing, however, is clear. It took many conferences of important officials from the two sides to come to the decision. It was a long process of conferences, and then they took the final decision. Final details, like the date of actual exchange, were carefully worked out. They decided the date to transfer the lunatics. Muslim lunatics whose families were still residing in India were to be left undisturbed. They were unbothered. The rest moved to the border for the exchange. The others went to the border. The situation in Pakistan was slightly different, since almost the entire population of Hindus and Sheikhs had already migrated to India. The situation that happened after this declaration were very different in India and in Pakistan. The question of keeping non-Muslim lunatics in Pakistan did not, therefore, arise, so they too should be transferred. While it is not known what the reaction in India was, very little was known of it. When the news reached the Lahore Lunatic Asylum, It immediately became the subject of heated discussion. He is focusing on the lunatics of the Lahore Lunatic Asylum. And when he wrote the story, he was in Lahore. So, though this is a fictional story, but he has chosen that asylum. It immediately became the subject of heated discussion. One Muslim lunatic, a regular reader of the fire-eating Delhi newspaper, Zamindar, when asked what Pakistan was, replied, after deep reflection, the name of a place in India where cutthroat razors are manufactured. This was the concept of the Muslim lunatic in Lahore Lunatic Asylum, that Pakistan is a place which is located in India. And how he was defining the place? He was defining that it is a place where cutthroat razors were manufactured. That was the concept he was having about Pakistan. This profound observation was received with visible satisfaction. This was the observation of the lunatic in the asylum. A Sikh lunatic asked another Sikh, Sardarji, why are we being sent to India? We don't even know the language they speak in that country. A very valid question has been asked by a Sikh lunatic in the asylum, that they do not know the language, they do not know in which language they will be able to communicate in India after being transferred. The man smiled. Sardarji smiled. I know the language of the Hindustanis. These devils always trot about as if they were the lords of the earth. This was his observation, or this was his perception about the people of India, about Hindustanis, that he is referring them as devils, and he is talking that they walk as if they are the lords of the earth. One day, a Muslim lunatic, while taking his bath, raised the slogan, Pakistan Zindabad, with such enthusiasm that he lost his balance and was later found lying on the floor unconscious. This is another story of a lunatic who was raising this slogan, and he was so much enthusiastic, he was unable to control his balance and he fell on the ground. Not all inmates were mad. He gave us few instances, and now the writer is saying that all of them were not mad, all of them were not insane. Some were perfectly normal, except that they were murderers. Few inmates of the lunatic asylums were murderers. To spare them the hangman's noose, their families had managed to get them committed after bribing officials down the line. What is hangman's noose? It is also known as hangman's knot, which is used to hang a person. Just to escape being hanged, the family members of these murderers had sent them to the asylums, and they have given bribes to the officials so that these murderers could live their life in the asylum. They could escape their original fate, which was supposed to happen with them. They probably had a vague idea why India was being divided and what Pakistan was. But as for the present situation, they were equally clueless. They too do not have any idea why India was divided. What was the concept of Pakistan? They were completely clueless. Newspapers were no help either, and the asylum guards were ignorant. The asylum guards did not know what was happening, why was happening, if not illiterate. Nor was there anything to be learned by eavesdropping on their conversation. Nothing could be heard by overhearing the conversation of the asylum guards. Some said there was this man by the name Muhammad Ali Jinnah or the Quaid-e-Azam who had set up a separate country for Muslims called Pakistan. Few said that Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the person who had called for a separate country for the Muslim people. As to where Pakistan was located, the inmates knew nothing. The inmates of the asylum had hardly any idea about the location of Pakistan. That was why both the mad and the partially mad were unable to decide whether they were now in India or in Pakistan. Definitely, they do not have the idea. They were not very clear about what was happening, what was the political situation. So they were unable to decide whether they were the residents of India at that point of time or the residents of Pakistan. If they were in India, where on earth was Pakistan? If it was India they were residing, then where is Pakistan located? And if they were in Pakistan, then how come that until only the other day it was India? A very puzzling question. They were being puzzled by the thoughts, by the decisions which were being made by the time. One inmate had got so badly caught up in this India-Pakistan-India rigmarole that one day, while sweeping the floor, he dropped everything, climbed the nearest tree, and installed himself on a branch, from which vantage point he spoke for 2 hours on the delicate problems of India and Pakistan. The person, the lunatic person, was so much driven by this India-Pakistan rigmarole, he was so much disturbed that he dropped everything he was doing. He climbed the nearest tree, sat on a branch, and vented an angry speech for 2 hours addressing the delicate problem of partition. The guards asked him to get down. Instead, he went a branch higher, and when threatened with punishment, he declared, "I wish to live neither in India nor in Pakistan. I wish to live in this tree." He was being asked time and again to come down to the ground. He denied that. Rather, he went to a higher branch. The moment he was threatened with punishment, he remained unmoved. He then declared, "I wish to live neither in India nor in Pakistan. I wish to live in this tree." That was the statement. When he was finally persuaded to come down, he began embracing his Sikh and Hindu friends, tears running down his cheeks, fully convinced that they were about to leave him and go to India. After coming down from the tree, he embraced his friends. He was crying, and he knew that they were going to be transferred to India. A Muslim radio engineer who had an MSc degree and never mixed with anyone gave in. as he was to taking long walks by himself all day, was so affected by the current debate that one day he took off all his clothes, gave the bundle to one of the attendants, and ran into the garden stark naked. This is the story of another lunatic who once completed MSc degree, who was not talkative person, but one day something strange happened with him. He took off all the clothes he was wearing and ran straight into the garden. A Muslim lunatic from Chennai, who used to be one of the most devoted workers of the All India Muslim League. The lunatic, he was once a devoted worker of the All India Muslim League. The person was obsessed with bathing himself 15 or 16 times a day. That was the usual things. Had suddenly stopped doing that and announced his name was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. That was the announcement that was made by the Muslim lunatic. This had led a Sikh inmate to declare himself Master Tara Singh, the leader of the Sikhs. The moment one Muslim lunatic is declaring that he is Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that is the very moment when a Sikh lunatic is declaring himself Master Tara Singh, the leader of the Sikhs. It means they do understand some debates. Apprehending serious communal trouble, the authorities declared them dangerous, that the result could be dangerous. So they were shut in separate cells. There was a young Hindu lawyer from Lahore who had gone off his head after an unhappy love affair. A person, a lawyer who failed in love, was also in the asylum. When told that Amritsar was to become a part of India, he went into a depression. He was depressed because his beloved lived in Amritsar, something he had not forgotten even in his madness. This lawyer, this young Hindu lawyer who is completely mad, but he could clearly remember that his beloved lived in Amritsar. That day he abused every major and minor Hindu and Muslim leader who had cut India into two, turning his beloved into an Indian and him into a Pakistani. So he could understand that, he could understand the result of partition, though they were the inmates of lunatic asylum. But they were understanding these things very minutely. In detail, they were understanding. When news of the exchange reached the asylum, his friends offered him congratulations. His friends congratulated him because he was now to be sent to India, the country of his beloved. He could be reunited with his beloved, with his lost love. However, he declared that he had no intention of leaving Lahore because his practice would not flourish in Amritsar. Though he was a mad person, though he was in the asylum, he did not want to be united with his beloved. He did not want to leave Lahore. He wanted to continue his practice of law. There were two Anglo-Indian lunatics in the European ward. When told that the British had decided to go home after granting independence to India, they went into a state of deep shock. They were shocked after hearing this and were seen conferring with each other in whispers the entire afternoon. They were talking with each other but in whispering sounds. They were worried about their changed status after independence. What would they be called after independence? Would there be a European word Or would it be abolished? Where would they live? Would there be a separate ward for them, for these Europeans? Would breakfast continue to be served? Would they be provided with breakfast? Would they have to subsist on Indian chapati? Or what was the scenario? What would happen with them? They were so much concerned about the fact. There was another inmate, a Sikh, who had been confined for the last 15 years. A Sikh who was in the asylum for 15 years. Whenever he spoke, it was the same mysterious gibberish. That is, the meaningless words. He utters something, and others do not understand. God said he had not slept a wink in 15 years. He had never slept in the asylum. Occasionally, he could be observed leaning against a wall, but the rest of the time, he was always to be found standing. He could lean against a wall for some time, but most of his time in the asylum, he was always found, he was always seen standing. Because of this, his legs were permanently swollen, something that did not appear to bother him. His swollen legs did not bother him. Recently, he had started to listen carefully to discussions about the forthcoming exchange of Indian and Pakistani lunatics. But something had happened that he started paying attention to discussions about the exchange of Indian and Pakistani lunatics. When asked his opinion, he observed solemnly the quite same statement he made. Of late, however, the government of Pakistan had been replaced by the government of Toba Tek Singh, a small town in the Punjab, which was his home. The person, the Sikh inmate about whom Manto is talking, he was a resident of Toba Tek Singh. Toba Tek Singh was a city in Punjab, the province of Pakistan. And the Sikh inmate belongs to Toba Tek Singh. He had also begun inquiring where Toba Tek Singh was to go. Where would that place go? In India or in Pakistan? However, nobody was quite sure whether it was in India or Pakistan. It all was in vain. Nobody knew where that place was actually located. Those who had tried to solve this mystery had become utterly confused when told that Sialkot, that was a prominent industrial city, which used to be in India, was now in Pakistan. So it was very confusing for them to guess whether the place would be in India or in Pakistan. It was anybody's guess what was going to happen to Lahore, which was currently in Pakistan, but could slide into India any moment. It was also possible that both India and Pakistan might not entirely vanish from the map of the world one day. They thought that there might be some possibility, as if these things were happening, so this could also be possible that one day India and Pakistan would completely be vanished from the map of the world, from the world map. The old man's hair was almost gone, and what little was left had become a part of the beard, giving him a strange, even frightening appearance. That old inmate, the sick inmate. His hair was gone and he had a beard. His appearance was quite strange and frightening. However, he was a harmless fellow. He would do no harm to others. He was a harmless one and had never been known to get into fights. He would never get involved in a fight. That was known about him. Older attendants at the asylum said that he was a fairly prosperous landlord from Toba Tek Singh. The old attendants, they knew, and they said that once this person was a prosperous landlord who had quite suddenly gone mad. His family had brought him in, bound and fettered. That was 15 years ago. 15 years ago, suddenly he had gone mad, and that's why his family brought him in that asylum. Once a month, he used to have visitors, but since the start of communal troubles in the Punjab, they had stopped coming. He used to have visitors in his old days, but once the moment the communal troubles started in Punjab, the people stopped coming. They stopped visiting him. His real name was Bishan Singh, but everybody called him Toba Tek Singh. His name was Bishan Singh. He was called by the name of the land, Toba Tek Singh. He lived in a kind of limbo, having no idea what day of the week it was or month, or how many years had passed since his confinement. He did not had any idea about the name of the day, the name of the week, or which year it was going on. He had no idea. However, he had developed a sixth sense about the day of the visits when he used to bath himself, soap his body, oil, and comb his hair, and put on clean clothes. But somehow he had developed his sixth sense of about the day of the visit. When somebody would visit him, somehow he would know that by his sixth sense, and that day he would bath himself, he would soap his body, he would be prepared. He never said a word during these meetings, except occasional outbursts of that words he used to say. When he was first confined, he had left an infant daughter behind, now a pretty young girl of 15. So the girl has turned 15. And the moment he left, she was an infant daughter of him. She would come occasionally and sit in front of him with tears rolling down her cheeks. She would come to pay a visit, and she would be crying all the time. In the strange world that he inhabited, hers was just another face. The world where Bishan Singh was residing, that was very different. And the girl who came to meet her, that little girl who came to meet her, her face was very different, two different worlds. Since the start of this India-Pakistan cabal, he had got into the habit of asking fellow inmates where exactly Toba Tek Singh was. He used to ask everyone without receiving a satisfactory answer. He used to get answers, but he was not satisfied because nobody knew. The visits had also suddenly stopped. He was increasingly restless, but more than that, curious. He was becoming restless. He was becoming curious. Where was Toba Tek Singh located? The sixth sense, which used to alert him to the day of the visits, had also atrophied. So everything has gone. He could not even sense when someone was going to pay him a visit. He missed his family, the gifts they used to bring, and the concern with which they used to speak to him. He was missing everything, his family, their gifts, their concern. He was sure they would have told him whether Toba Tek Singh was in India or in Pakistan. He knew very well that only the person of his family could tell him whether it was located in India or in Pakistan. He also had a feeling that they came from Toba Tek Singh, where he used to have his home. And he had a feeling, he felt that they would definitely come from that place, Toba Tek Singh. One of the inmates had declared himself God. One day this happened that a person declared himself God. Bishan Singh asked him one day if Toba Tek Singh was in India or Pakistan. He asked the person who declared himself God. He asked that person. The man chuckled. He smiled. Neither in India nor in Pakistan, because so far we have issued no orders in this respect. That was the answer that was given to Bishan Singh by that inmate, that it was neither in India nor in Pakistan, because we have issued no orders till now. Bishan Singh begged God, the person, to issue the necessary orders so that his problem could be solved. But he was disappointed, as God appeared to be preoccupied with more pressing matters. He asked the person so that he can give the orders, he can issue the orders so that Bishan Singh could know whether it was in Pakistan or in India. But the person who declared himself God said that he had many more things, many more pressing matters to look after, and he cannot say that now. Finally, he told him angrily. Again, the gibberish which he was speaking, there are some differences. He was trying to express his feelings. What he wanted to say was, "You don't answer my prayers because you are a Muslim god." This was the response of Bishan Singh. Had you been a Sikh god, you'd have been more of a sport. So if you were a Sikh god, then you would have let me know. Then you would have make the answer clear. A few days before the exchange was to take place, one of Bishan Singh's Muslim friends from Toba Tek Singh came to see him. Someone came to see him. The first time in 15 years. A friend who never came, but that time he visited for the first time. A Muslim friend of Bishan Singh. Bishan Singh looked at him once and turned away, until a guard said to him, "This is your old friend, Fazaldin. He has come all the way to meet you." And the guard said that this was your friend. He has come to meet you. Bishan Singh looked at Fazaldin and began to mumble something. He was mumbling. He was saying very quietly, and his words were not clear enough to understand. It was not audible enough to understand. Fazaldin placed his hand on his friend's shoulder and said, "I have been meaning to come for some time to bring you news. I was trying to come to you. All your family is well." And he is saying, he's informing Bishan Singh that the family members of Bishan Singh is well and has gone to India safely. They have reached to India. I did what I could to help. I have done as far as I could. Your daughter, Rupkor, he hesitated. Then he said, he is safe too in India. So they have all gone to India. Bishan Singh kept quiet. Bishan Singh was silent. Fazaldin continued, "Your family wanted me to make sure you were well. Soon you will be moving to India." Bishan Singh has come to give him information that yes, you are going to be in India quite soon. What can I say except that you should remember me to Bhai Balveer Singh. You should remember me. Bhai Vadhava Singh and Behin Amrit Kaur. You should remember me to these people. Tell Bhai Balveer Singh that Fazaldin is well by the grace of God. The two brown buffaloes he left behind are well too. Both of them gave birth to calves, but unfortunately one of them died after 6 days. This was the general information they were exchanging. Say, I think of them often and to write to me if there is anything I can do. You can write to me. Who was saying all these things? Fazaldin was informing Bishan Singh. Then he then he added, Here, I brought you a nice treat from home. He brought you a treat. Bishan Singh took the gift and handed it to one of the guards. He took it and passed it. Where is Toba Tek Singh? He asked. The first question Bishan Singh asked after hearing all the stories of his family members that, where is Toba Tek Singh? Where? Why? It is where it has always been. In India or in Pakistan? In India. No, in Pakistan. So this was the answers they were giving. Where is Toba Tek Singh? Toba Tek Singh is in India or in Pakistan? He said, in India. Then he said, no, no, it is in Pakistan. Without saying another word, Bishan Singh walked away. After hearing this, he left the place. He walked away, murmuring again something. Meanwhile, the exchange arrangements were rapidly being finalized. The arrangements were done. Lists of lunatics from the two sides had been exchanged between the governments, and the date of transfer fixed. Everything has been fixed. On a cold winter evening, buses full of Hindu and Sikh lunatics, accompanied by armed police and officials, began moving out of the Lahore asylum towards Wagha, a village or an international border between India and Pakistan. They were moving towards Wagha. Senior officials from the two sides in charge of exchange arrangements met. Senior officials met, signed documents, and the transfer got underway. The transfer would took place. Everything was done officially. It was quite a job getting the men out of the buses and handing them over to officials. It was a job because they were all lunatics and then they were transferring these persons without their consent. Some were happy, some were frustrated. Some just refused to leave. Those who were persuaded to do began to run pell-mell in every direction. They are trying to escape from the situation. Some were stark naked. Some were naked. There were no clothes covering their body. All efforts to get them to cover themselves had failed. All efforts failed because they couldn't be kept from tearing off their garments because the officials could not stop them. They could not stop these lunatics so that they could not tear off their garments. They were tearing off their garments. Some were shouting abuse or singing. Others were weeping bitterly. Many fights broke out. They were fighting because they understood something. Maybe they were lunatics. Manto has chosen to write about this story and he has chosen the asylums. He is talking about their emotions, their feelings, the brutality they were facing, the hardships they were fighting. In short, complete confusion prevailed. Female lunatics were also being exchanged and they were even noisier because they were crying or shouting or quarreling. It was bitterly cold. Most of the inmates appeared to be dead set against the entire operation. They simply could not understand why they were being forcibly removed. Few of them didn't even understand what was happening there. They were being removed, they were being transferred against their will by force, thrown into buses and driven to these strange places. There were slogans of Pakistan Zindabad and Pakistan Murdabad, followed by fights. So these were the slogans that were raising there and that were followed by many fights. When Bishan Singh was brought out and asked to give his name so that it could be recorded in a register, he asked the official behind the desk, "Where is Toba Tek Singh? In India or Pakistan?" "Pakistan," he answered with a vulgar laugh. With a terrible laugh, the officer answered, "But in Pakistan. Toba Tek Singh is located in Pakistan." Bishan Singh tried to run, but was overpowered by the Pakistani guards who tried to push him across the dividing line towards India. After hearing that Toba Tek Singh was located in Pakistan, he was trying to escape, but he could not because there were officials, there were guards. They pushed him across the border line towards India. However, he wouldn't move. He didn't move. "This is Toba Tek Singh," he announced, and made a line. Said something. Many efforts were made to explain to him that Toba Tek Singh had already been moved to India. Few said that the place had already been moved to India. Few said that it would be moved immediately. But it had no effect on Bishan Singh. The guards even tried force, but soon gave up. The guards tried harder, but they gave up because he was not responding. Then he stood in no man's land on his swollen legs like a colossus. No man's land, an unoccupied area. He was standing there. His legs were swollen and he was standing like a colossus. Colossus refers to a person who is in great size or power. So he was standing like that. Since he was harmless old man, no further attempt was made to push him into India. He was an old man who was harmless, so they did not torture him, they did not push him again. He was allowed to stand where he wanted. While the exchange continued, the night wore on. The night was there, the night came. Just before sunrise, Bishan Singh, the man who had stood on his legs for 15 years, screamed, and as officials from the two sides rushed towards him, he collapsed to the ground. He was standing all over the night there. Simply before the sunrise, he screamed, and guards came from both of the sides. Then he collapsed to the ground. There, behind barbed wire, on one side lay India, and behind more barbed wire, on the other side lay Pakistan. So the wire, which was the borderline of India and Pakistan, one side was India, the other side was Pakistan. In between, on a bit of earth, which had no name, a bit of earth which was referred here as no man's land, there lay Toba Tek Singh. Toba Tek Singh is not simply the name of the place. It was also name of the person, Bishan Singh. And he was so much attached to that place. And he understand that that transfer which was going on without their approval, or that was not always happening for their good, that was happening for the good of business. So that was the reason this person had to offer his life.